in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome to the Landing Strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Welcome back to the Landing Strip. I guess the Tank Commander bit is not over. What a performance from the Winnipeg Jets in a must-win hockey game. The Dallas Stars control this one all over the ice. They dictated virtually everything. And when the Stars needed them, Jake Ottinger made the big saves to put up a shutout, something I don't believe we've seen yet this season, if I'm not mistaken. And between tonight's loss, the out-of-town scoreboard last night, and where it's trending tonight, folks, this lottery position is looking mighty fine. We're back in play here. Talk about the Western Conference roller coaster of all time here. We see Morgan Barron get back into the lineup. We'll talk about that. We see, I think this was an example. Choices TK has continued to hammer home on this over on Twitch about the quality of opponent, catching a good team on a bad night, needing overtime to beat the worst of the bunch. This was a night the Dallas Stars head coach challenged his team as their play had dipped of late. And we see the real gap tonight between the quality at the top of this division that's going to go to war this spring and summer to try and go win a cup, and the quality of this wild card 2 race that is just, it's kind of embarrassing if you start looking at it with what this all looks like. And who doesn't like a good storyline on Saturday? That's their next game, right, Mikey?
Yep, you got it.
Saturday in Columbus. They're going into town after Columbus loses 2 straight, no shows tonight, and we hear Grumpy Bones post-game light a match. Rick Bowness revived this era. Rick Bowness gave this team a chance during the retool, and now Rick Bowness has a chance to put this out to pasture. Talk about a full circle moment potentially there to be had Saturday. The margin for error is nothing. The Winnipeg Jets at this point might need to go 7-0 to get in the playoffs, especially where these out-of-town scoreboards are going. Let's get into all of it. Jared Bednar, a Stanley Cup winning coach, pops on a podcast. We're going to talk about that because it made me even more annoying about some of the stuff we've seen out of this Jets team and what they could potentially learn from an organization that's won. Let's get into it. Mikey, how are you doing tonight?
How could you not be doing good after that one? That was an all-time. I got my notes mixed up here. That was a bad game from the Jets. That can't be right. We're in the middle of a playoff push. I thought this was gonna be the statement game. We're finally playing a team into a real playoff team, and 3-0, getting shut out. That's a tough pill to swallow if you were still on team playoff. You can't be too happy about that. But if you are looking for some type of, silver lining, brighter days ahead, I think I've got a song that we can all sing together. So let's hit it.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop. It'll soon be here.
Yes, it will soon be here. That draft is coming closer and closer every single day. That lottery pick is coming up closer and closer. And if things go the right way with the out-of-town scoreboard tonight, we could wake up tomorrow morning with your Winnipeg Jets sitting in the same spot that they won the lottery from the last time. So, brighter days are ahead. I know we had a little bit of panic in the chat on the show by our host, even, who was starting to worry a little bit last time. But don't worry, the tank rolls on. These Jets are not good. I maintained that all the way through last time. One good period against a bad Chicago team was not going to change that for me. And, they are who we thought they were. They showed us tonight.
Yeah, a couple of comments in the chat, and then we'll get into the tank commander of the night. So we want to hear from you. Who is your tank commander in this massive dagger of a regulation loss, getting shut out by the Dallas Stars. Frosty Winnipeg has a question for us here. Who's been better, the Stars over the Jets or Jim Nill over Chevy this year?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Maybe Nill, I guess.
Oh, Nill's a cream of the crop.
Right?
That's a true draft and development program.
Right?
Even that new guy they brought up, that Hick was, I don't know how to
I
pronounce
can't say it
but
either.
right.
Yeah, that's a tough one still for me.
Little prick to him, though. Oh,
Yeah.
I wish.
Can you imagine? Oh,
Victoria also shouts out, because I did see this. I just tuned in. Have we mentioned my boy Stanley laying another beating on Brady? He's just been doing the Lord's work. Another big scrap between Stanley and Brady Tkachuk.
yep.
Who, Tkachuk, I think we're seeing the end times in Ottawa
Yeah,
this summer.
that's
Interesting
drawn to
things
a
coming
close.
there.
Him and Hellebuck both heading to Florida, it looks like.
But on this night, as Wara points at 4 shots after 20, 12 shots after 40, halfway through this game, the Jets have 2 power plays at this point, and they have 6 shots on goal and are down 3-0. They were down 3-0 with 4 shots on goal for themselves. This was a game where you see a push when this one's out of reach. In the first 40 minutes of this hockey game, Dallas dictated the physicality. Dallas dictated the pace. Dallas dictated transition. Dallas dictated the quality of shots. Like, this was 2 different tiers. This was 2 different leagues here tonight from what we watched.
Yeah.
Coming out of this one, who's your tank commander?
You know, I was gonna go Hellebuck at one point. You know, an 857 save percentage, just as clearly not good enough. I was gonna go to our Neil, who just is absolutely clueless when it comes to any type of roster management, which never helps things out. I was
We
going to
did
go
get
to
an interesting blender today we'll
He's-
get into.
There was almost a shot at an interesting blender, and then the fight happened and kind of messed everything up at that point. But
Yeah.
he was going to try to do something kind of fun for a second there. So then I was like, nah, maybe not him. But you know what? I'm just going to say that the tank commander tonight were the hockey gods. They shone bright on the Winnipeg Jets. They made sure that they came out of this game absolutely with no points, with no hope for what the playoffs would look like. And also a little help on the out-of-town scoreboard, which we'll get to later. I just think overall the hockey gods were on the Jets' side. Some of the saves that Ottinger made to keep the Jets out of this one were absolutely ridiculous, and probably 100 times beyond that would have gone in, but just tonight it was a save. So I'm going to say the hockey gods were looking out for the long-term future of your Winnipeg Jets, and they're going to wear the tank commander hat.
I like that. Some of the comments over on YouTube. Rihanna's tank commander is Iafallo for getting the tank rolling tonight. Was he the first goal or a second goal there? But he was, yikes. That was goal number 2, where I believe it was Salo sends a stretch pass.
Yep.
And he cannot corral it. Jamie Benn picks him off, passes to Adam Ernie, passes back to Ben, and then they go backdoor to Hiru. I think I pronounced that one right. I might have missed that one.
Gesundheit.
But yeah, a great tic-tac-toe play off a mistake from Alex Iafallo. Dallas gets on the board early on the power play. After Heiskanen gets a good look early, we see Rantanen throw a dime backdoor to Duchesne.
Yep.
Hellebuck gets over, but Duchesne gets the rebound from behind the line, banks it off him, and they're down 2-0 in a hurry. And quite the stat. You see that stat on TSN tonight?
Which one?
That the Winnipeg Jets are the only team in the NHL not to have a multi-goal comeback this year.
Yes. Yep.
That game was effectively over after that Iafallo mistake.
Yep.
So I think that's a great shout on the tank commander from Rihanna.
Yeah, agreed.
Vibe up. I honestly had hopes for the playoffs, but after the Avs game, but after today, I lost it all. I think this was the moment for a lot of people watching how that one turns out.
Yeah.
0 goes to 8, so the tank commander, as usual, was Connor, 857, Hellebuck. A lot of those on the board lately. Jay Miller's tank commander was dumbass Arnie. Jordy Angus says, our star players look feeble and weak tonight. Helly needs to go, and Arnie literally manages games by pulling names from a hat. Matt Rothman says the tank commander is Chaz Lucius for not providing secondary scoring. Hey,
right.
Cruz Lucius is available. We
That's
might be
right.
able to right or wrong.
We can fix it.
He's not signing in Pittsburgh. James Istra says the Jets showed their true colors. Infinity Comments, Tank Commanders, Josh Morrissey, and those stupid fucking floaty backhand passes that are turnovers every time.
Yeah, I know which
Never
one he's
sounds
talking
good,
about.
right?
We do see those quite often lately.
Jets Empire is my Tank Commander is the top line with another -1.
Yep.
Sugar Hill Sleep says, I think we stun the Avs if we make it in which Turd Ferguson says, we will all be stunned if we play the Avs again, to be fair.
Correct.
Leslie. My Tank Commander on this night is going to be Glenn Gulletson.
Ooh.
Dallas drops a couple games. They have one regulation game, I believe, in the last 9,
Yep.
they said on the broadcast. And he challenges his team, and we see why Dallas is second place in the Central Division and why they were chasing down Colorado there for a bit. I thought the Dallas Stars, again, dictated every piece of this game. Physicality we saw. Ends up with Sadlow leaving injured. We'll have to get into that. The Jets try and respond with Neil Pionk and Adam Lowry. You see Lowry and Ben scrap. Big boy tilt. Got to respect the captain on that one and how that all played out.
Those two love
But I
fighting
thought-
each other.
Yeah, apparently. But I thought the Dallas Stars were looking to initiate that side of the game, but they also controlled transition, their defensive zone. How often did the Jets break through with a quality look on Ottinger? There was some towards the end of that game, but it was a pretty clean look for him early and often. In transition, it felt like the Jets D were backing in so far, and you'd see their top guys like Rantanen, Robertson, crisscrossing and making pretty plays and doing as they pleased, entering the zone on what seemed to be odd man rushes all the time.
All night.
I thought Dallas put on an absolute masterclass of why there is a segment of us that have wanted to see this team fall as far as possible and not play the Colorado Avalanche, because there's levels to this. Jared Bednar, in this conversation we're going to get into, talked about how he was experimenting against the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets were used as a bit of a practice pad for him, in a sense. When we get to that playoffs, there is another level to what we're looking at. We're not going to have to worry about it. Right now, we're closer to bottom 4, or we're going to end the night at a similar range to the bottom 4, to the wild card. Only 7 games to go. Tank Commander is the Winnipeg Jets, showing what we've seen from them quite often this year after giving just enough to tease people and bring them back in.
Yeah, the difference between these two teams was absolutely stark, right? It was very much on display for everybody to see. Yeah, there's a little bit of a pushback in the third. Once it's already 3-0 and the Stars have the game in the bag, right? The foot comes off the gas a little bit for them. They kind of sit back and let some shots come in at Audie from the outside. None of them were really all that threatening outside of the very end of the game where Ottinger makes an absolutely ridiculous diving save. But again, by that point, it's too late because they were just a better team top to bottom. There was no area of the ice tonight where the Winnipeg Jets could, plant the flag and say, this is what this is where we're going. The Stars beat them in the middle. The Stars beat them along the boards. There was no clean entries. Through 40 minutes, I don't know how the game ended, but through 40 minutes, there were no odd man rushes for the Winnipeg Jets. 0. Like they had absolutely nothing going. They had no answer whatsoever for the Dallas Stars. Not physically, not on the scoreboard, not anywhere that it mattered. Because, like you said, there are levels to this, and the Winnipeg Jets just weren't on that same level tonight, and aren't at that same spot in their process. This is not a playoff team. This is not a top 2 in the Central. This is not a top 3 in the NHL, team like the Dallas Stars are right now. And it's why we were hoping that, things kind of do fall off a little bit this year and they can get some of that high-end talent, because right now this is what it's going to be like competing with the Dallas Stars for the next couple years, and the Winnipeg Jets just don't have it.
Yes, I see over in the chat, Scarborough says Jets are going to win the lottery pick this year with the ethical tank. If there is any team that is bad ethically and not on purpose, it's certainly this Winnipeg Jets team.
Yep.
As old Mike 9080 says, the Jets got their ass handed to them the entire game.
Yep.
And we talked about, this was a game, as Turd Ferguson said, the Dallas Stars came out to end the Jets season tonight. This is a game that they came in to the game right from shift 1, wanting to push the Winnipeg Jets. We see that rookie center bugging Adam Lowry right off the opening
Right
draw.
off the go.
They were looking to make this a playoff style game to show their coach that they're ready for that. And the Jets didn't have an answer in any facet of the game. The biggest answer we saw was Adam Lowry stepping up to Jamie Benn. Let's get into that side of the game here early. Jason Robertson pulls off that reverse hit. His elbow comes up, catches Salo. Salo leaves the game. I'm guessing he's going to be concussed. In the third period, Neil Pionk steps up on Robertson, gives him a bit of a bridge, and then is trying to egg him into a fight. Blackwell and Ben quickly answer, and Jamie Benn's looking to fight Neil Pionk, and that would not have gone well
No.
for Mr. Pionk
Nope.
had that one go in. And that's where we see Adam Lowry paying attention to what's going on, and he steps up and fights Jamie Benn. As you said, those two have gone at it a few times. That's a big moment from Adam Lowry to step in there. That's what you expect out of your captain.
Yep.
What'd you think of the Robertson hit? What happened with Solomson? What did you think of Pionk's response? What did you think of Lowry's response? As the Winnipeg Jets leave the entire situation with a power play chasing the game.
Yeah. So with the hit itself, well, actually, no. First off, I just hope Salamonson is okay. Not from we need him to make the playoffs and they've got to get him back in right away. I just hope he is physically okay. I just hope that, it's not too bad. Concussions are fucking scary. Once you get one, sometimes they can get worse later on and things like that. So hopefully it's nothing too bad. Hopefully it was just the spotter pulling him out and them keeping him out of a game that was already lost kind of thing. For the hit itself, it seems that everybody kind of agrees that technically by the rule of the law, that's a legal play, right? That he's got the space and ability to have that reverse hit, quote unquote, and make the space for it that way. I don't like it, especially with how much the elbow comes up and gets him in the chin. Adam Lowry in the postgame kind of said it best. Those kind of reverse hits are meant to be shoulder to shoulder if you're calling that a legal hit. But so often it ends up catching guys in the chin, which, I don't like it at all. So, yeah, technically, is it a legal play? It kind of sounds like it is, but is it one that I like? No, I hate it a lot, and I hope Sal's not going to be too actually hurt.
Yeah, Turd Ferguson says, Laus is such a captain. I'd follow Laus into battle all day, every day. For him to step up, and that was a pretty good tilt.
Yep.
Great. That's a response you want to see.
Well, yeah.
Like to see Pionk getting into the fight and wanting to drag a guy like Robertson into one.
Yep.
That's the kind of energy you want to see. On the Salo hit and the Robertson hit, I've said before, I'm not a big fan of the reverse hit because of the idea that it's interference. And as Laus kind of talked about, as a guy coming in to defend, you can't even throw a hit at the numbers like that.
Yep.
I think it's a pretty tough play, but we're seeing it quite often, and you also got to be braced for it. And it was pretty clear Salo wasn't. The way he kind of took that, that's going to be a learning experience, especially as someone that's going to be going into corner battles quite often in his career.
Yep.
Something to learn from there, but it seems like he might be missing some time. But yeah, it's just a hit I don't love to see personally, but like you said, it's not technically illegal right now.
Yeah. By the way, the rules are written right now. It's not an illegal play. There's not going to be a phone call or anything like that. It's just one of those unfortunate ones that you just don't like to see the end result of, especially when it's a young guy who, like you said there, he probably wasn't expecting that in that moment, right? That's going to be a learning experience, a painful fucking learning experience, but that's going to have to be a learning experience for him. And with Pionk and Lowry, I'm pretty harsh on Neil Pionk quite often. I think everybody knows that. But I do like the pest portion of his game. That's always been one of the things that I do like and respect about Neil Pionk, that he likes to get under the other team's skin quite often, and trying to get Robertson to go in that moment to, that's an exchange that I'll take every single time. And Lowry stepping up because, as much as I don't like Neil Pionk, I don't want to see him fight Jamie Benn. That's going to be that's a bad day for Neil Pionk. He doesn't deserve that beating, and Lowry knows that, so he steps in there and does what a captain does. Which, hey, look, the Winnipeg Jets were able to handle that situation without a quote-unquote goon on the ice. I am shocked and appalled that was actually able to get resolved that way. I thought we needed to have a knuckle dragger out there.
I think we could use one, if I'm being honest with you.
I mean, it'll be fun for the rest of the season. It's not a long-term plan.
Oh, there's much bigger needs.
Right,
than that.
exactly.
Blake
Now, if we
G-
want to bring up Bauer for the next, oh wait, no, we're done playing the Dallas Stars. Damn it!
Come on, round 2, brother.
Round 2.
Blake G's tank commander goes to the pro and amateur scouting. Dallas can draft and develop. Somehow, all the Moose players have stagnated. Dallas is definitely the cream of the crop when it comes to turning late firsts and seconds into quality NHLers and finding pathways for them. Few of them in the game here tonight. Though, that reminds me, another couple college signings today for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yep.
Couple captains. I don't know much about one. I saw a lot of hype with Gustafsson, the defenseman coming in.
Yep.
Some comparisons to like a Bomidian type mold. A lot of the more public scouts thought that was a real nice ad. But hey, in this college cycle, they've got in 3 guys. I believe they're all captains. They all seem to be projectable talents. You want to refill a bit of the prospect shots and give yourself darts? Take these free ones.
You know what that's
all
like?
day here.
It's like after you get dumped and she goes and she tells everybody that she's dumped you publicly. So then you quickly get onto Tinder and you're like, no, look at all these matches that I have. I've got all these. Look at all these. Look at all these. I just got these all today. That's the Jets responding after that Elite Prospects article comes out telling them they've got a terrible system and they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, they're going to announce all these college signings today. Be like, oh, look, no, the Jets are back. They know how to develop.
Hey, I'll take an influx coming in from anywhere. We know the ceiling of a lot of college guys probably isn't high, but
Build
they
the
have
roster.
contracts passed.
There you go.
Yeah, Phil.
Dating and
darts.
hockey, right? Dating and hockey. Build the roster.
Yeah, throw those darts. Let's get into the Prom Financial Face-Off, and then we'll talk about the blender that almost was there for a second, because I
What
thought
could
it
have been?
yield some interesting results outside the normal at the top of the lineup here.
All right, let's hit it.
Thanks for calling the landing strip. You're on the air. What would you like to talk about?
Right on. 1-204-800-0409. 1-204-800-0409. Get on the line. Give us a call. Let us know you're from Financial Face-Off. Anything else that you want to talk about?
All right, on this night, what is your From Financial Face-Off?
Ooh, I mean, besides everything, everything was the difference tonight. The Winnipeg Jets had nothing going in their favor. I'll zone in on the fact that they had absolutely no ability whatsoever to get a clean zone entry tonight. At all. 0. You could probably count on one hand with only a couple fingers the times that they made it through clean before the last 5 minutes of the game. It's pretty embarrassing that they couldn't set up any offense whatsoever. Dallas completely suffocated them in the neutral zone tonight. And they made it so that there was no chance for the Jets to get set up for anything.
I want to give a shout out over to Dwayne Jetski. Says, look forward to the landing strip every time we play the Jets. Y'all have a goated podcast name. Thank you for joining in. Must be a fun one for you after that spanking in Dallas. Sounded like a rocking barn tonight.
Oh, the songs they were singing like crazy tonight. Big shout out to
Yeah.
the Stars fans in house.
No, I've been in that arena for that game 6. I know it could get pretty loud in there. It sounded like it on the broadcast. From Financials over on YouTube, Rylan Medwick says was playing against the True Draft and Develop program. Rihanna's From Financial Faceoff was Dallas being all up in every avenue of the Jets' business today.
Yeah.
Easily all up in their business. The Stars gave the Jets very little to work with in every facet of this game. All 3 zones, they really dictated this one. This was the difference of a team that has a chance to win a cup this year versus a team that might be drafting in the top 6, maybe even 4 of the NHL. I think this was just on full-on display in this game. This wasn't even close at any point.
See, that's the thing, right? This is who the Jets have been the whole way through. They've caught a couple good teams on bad nights. They got bailed out by Hellebuck for the one game against Colorado. This is who, one good period against the Chicago Blackhawks, who are worse than the Winnipeg Jets, does not mean that this is a playoff team. This is who the Winnipeg Jets are. These are the type of games you can get for them. Yeah, they can show up once in a while against the teams kind of around and below them. But again, no wins against specific teams in the playoffs whatsoever. This is not a good team. I still think they've got seven wins against playoff teams total since the new year. Like it's not a good team. It just isn't, unfortunately.
Matt Rothman's From Financial Faceoff is being light years away based on quality when comparing it to Dallas. You want to talk about measuring stick?
Yep.
It was certainly there. Jets Empire says From Financial Faceoff was Dallas, making sure Winnipeg gets a reality check, although the Jets still think they're in this still. That might end Saturday night.
Yep.
Nicholas at Knight's From Financial Faceoff is Scott Arniel barely playing the Barron line 5-on-5. Dallas running all four. Arniel coaching like a coward. People wanting to squeak in the playoffs. This is what a series would look like.
Yep. Nailed it.
Jelly D. Bean from Financial Faceoff is just an uncreative use of the lineups, especially the top six. Get some skilled youth up there. We did see Brad Lambert get a promotion up in there. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yep.
Dwayne Jetski providing some context on the recent Stars play says, yeah, they've been slumping lately. This was definitely a get-right game for the Stars, and that was full on display.
Yeah.
We've seen some teams, Colorado experimenting and stuff that the Jets have beaten, like last Saturday. This was a team that I can confidently say we got their A game from, and it was on full display.
Yep, absolutely.
And Kevin K says, glad the Jets could accommodate them tonight. Vibe Up, did you watch a Canucks game yesterday? I did watch that. Colorado comes all the way back, only to give one up late to Marcus Patterson of all people.
Yep.
It was quite the thriller. And then switched over to watch Macklin Celebrini. What he did, he had 4 points in the entire game, but I only caught the third. Clock's ticking down, and in the last 2 minutes of the game, he puts the Sharks on his back with his 40th of the year, right through traffic, perfect shot, and then sets up that game winner off a great pass. It was absolutely incredible to watch that kid. I'm pulling for him to get in to round one.
Yep.
This is a guy that's got to be a Hart nominee at 19 years old, and he carried the San Jose Sharks in the midst of a big playoff race at 19 on his back against the Anaheim Ducks at the top of their division. It was incredible last night.
Yeah, he's been absolutely magic. I think the next closest Shark is like 49 points below him or something crazy like that. He's doing it single-handedly as a teenager. They're my pick to be the one to sneak into that wild card 2 spot. They've got the games in hand. They're going at a good pace right now. The story is good. I want Magic Celebrini in there. I want it so bad, and I think they're going to do it. I think they get that wild card 2 spot. That's my pick for it.
He's got to win the Hart, I think. If it's the most valuable player to a franchise,
yep,
you might drag that team kicking and screaming into the playoffs at 19. It's bonkers to watch.
100%.
You got to tune in for this kid.
100%.
They also seem to be the team of destiny. This is 3 straight games they've won, scoring in the last minute of the game to win it in regulation. Something's going on over there. It's nice to have an impact player that's only going to grow.
Right.
Some more From Financial Faceoffs as Don Dawson and Pomerlane are on the same page here. Don Dawson says, Barron, Rosane, Ford was maybe our best line. The reward was 3.5 minutes in 5-on-5 play. And Pomerlane says the From Financial Faceoff was the 4th line was going. They get a grand total of 3 minutes of 5-on-5 play.
Mm-hmm.
My From Financial Faceoff is going to be just the tier difference organizationally between the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets. From management on down, I think Jim Nill, one of the best in the league. We talked a couple of shows ago. I think over the last 18 months, Kevin Cheveldayoff has been in the bottom 5 of this league. You want to talk about draft and development and hitting on late picks. We're hearing a lot more come up in this market as a defense that, you know what, those first-round picks have been lower. It's harder to hit there. They've been lower. There's only been 2 drafts. The Winnipeg Jets have not had a first-round pick. They've been able to throw their darts. You look at what Dallas has been able to produce with those darts. The Chaz Lucius thing has come up this year. Guess who went right behind Chaz Lucius that hit 40 goals for Dallas? Wyatt Johnson. You're seeing the stark differences of why that team continues to push and ascend as guys like Duchesne, Ben move backwards, you have a guy like Miro Heiskanen, who I often say is my favorite defenseman in the NHL to watch. You got a Thomas Harley on the back end. And then you have guys like Wyatt Johnson pushing up. You have a guy like Stankoven who you're able to use as a headliner to bring in a Mikko Rantanen. You have Jason Robertson. You have all this talent to keep pushing and not have to do that rebuild. And it starts at the top of the organization with Jim Nill, the scouting staff he brought over from guys that left Detroit, hitting on these picks and being able to be a true, consistent contender without seeing the big dip that we're seeing from the Winnipeg Jets. And that's going to be my From Financial Face-Off on this night.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. So we do see a bit of a blender. We get the predictable Velarde for Iafallo swap.
Oh, good old
in the third
reliable.
period.
Good old Rock. Nothing beats Rock.
And then we see a couple of interesting ones, though. We see Brad Lambert get the bump up with Lowry and Perfetti until Lowry ends up missing time with that fight. And then we see Morgan Barron, who makes his return in the lineup today, end up playing alongside, who was it there?
Rosane and Ford.
Rosane and Ford. Was it that? I thought I wrote something else down here. Give me a second.
The
I
game.
could be out of line.
Well, the game started with
No.
Rosane, Barron, and Ford.
Yeah, sorry. In the third period, I went to Iafallo.
Oh, in the
Barron,
third period. Sorry.
Rosane.
Pardon me.
Yeah. So we see a different look in the middle six. Didn't get much of it, but what did you think of Arniel's instincts there? And what did you think of looking at a different middle six, which kind of surprised me in a sense, actually?
So nobody asked him about it in the post game, so he didn't get a chance to throw absolute cold water on the discussion of whether or not this was a promotion for Brad Lambert. So I'm going to go ahead and do it for him. I'm going to say this was just because they were moving Iafallo down the lineup and wanted to get him away from some of the minutes and da-da-da-da-da, and Lambert's the only option that's there. I don't, it's hard for me to give Arniel credit on. Yeah, you know what? He's really starting to give the young guy a chance. Really glad to see. I liked it, to be honest. I would like to see a little bit of a run having Perfetti, Lowry, and Lambert go together. Iafallo's been a great soldier. He's been a good fill-in. He's a fantastic fourth-line guy. We've talked about that before. If somebody gets hurt mid-game, you need to move him up or something, whatever, that's fine. But this, extended run of, first-line Iafallo is just, again, one of the insane things that Scott Arniel absolutely just sticks to because, hey, guys have roles, and you have to stick to those roles, and he plays that role, and if you don't go into that role, you're not going to win games, so, which is essentially what he said tonight. I'm not going to give Scott the credit for it, but it is something I would like to see because I do think you've got some style that works there with Lowry, Lambo, and Perfetti, and it would maybe give Perfetti the opportunity to maybe start shooting the puck a little bit more. We've seen him score some goals in these last few games, so we know that part of the game is there. And maybe there is a shooter inside there if we can drag it out.
Yeah, and we've talked about Lowry being able to really support and open up guys with speed. I thought you saw some of that, as I thought that third period was the most open wheeling we saw Lambert kind of get to use that speed to try and create. I wouldn't mind seeing more of it either. I think that really fits. I think, as we've talked about over and over, I think Perfetti and Lowry are a really nice fit, and finding something that works there is going to help. I actually think Rosane and his shooting ability might be the answer there.
Yep.
But I do think we saw Lambert get rewarded today with that look. It tells us that they're at least thinking about Lambert in that kind of opportunity. And I thought he did well, again, building on this whole opportunity for him. I think that's a group I'd like to see more of.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we saw a bit in the third period. Liked it a little bit of what I saw. Hey, also, it's not one of those ones I would have ever thought of even trying. But I actually didn't mind Barron, Iafallo, Rosane either. I think that's a more natural spot for Iafallo.
Yeah.
Offense goes to die in his stick, and we're seeing that when he's out there with Connor and Shifley.
Yep.
As we've always known at this point. But I didn't mind the look of Barron, Iafallo, Rosane, and what that could kind of mean on a third line. Change of pace, potentially chip in a little bit there, but three guys you could probably trust. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of that middle six if we're being honest, because we know the big one's not coming.
Yeah, we know the big one's not coming. I guess the reason I was so hesitant to give Arniel credit that it's a Lambert promotion, because your other option is Parker Ford. Right? So you weren't putting Parker Ford in that spot. It had to be there's literally nobody else if it's not Iafallo. So it had to be Brad Lambert. That's why I'm still a little wary to give Scott the credit of, he's promoting or rewarding Lambert when he hasn't rewarded any player under the age of 34 the entire season for good play. So I'm going to pump the brakes on giving Scott the credit on that one. But if he is forced into it again, I would like to see it. Iafallo, like you said, is just a much better fit on a 3rd/4th. They have essentially 2 fourth lines. And it would hopefully mean that Rosane doesn't only get played 3 minutes a game 5-on-5. If at least you've got Barron and Iafallo on that line, you can maybe get him up to like 5 minutes 5-on-5 to really get his impact. Really give the opportunity and the chance to the young players that the Jets have been doing lately. So that's be great to see.
Olha Mike said Iafallo was top 3 in LA. Does that mean Shifley and Connor not as good as Kopitar and Kempe? Ooh, questions to be asked. Though when they would get to the playoffs, typically Iafallo and Velarde would play with each other on like a 3rd line when they were pesky for those Edmonton series.
Yeah. And Shifley's not as good as Kopitar. That's not even. Is that a real question?
Yeah.
That's not a real question, right? No. Mark Shifley's not as good as Anze Kopitar in any world.
T. Will is still hoping, or still thinking, sorry. I still think we reach a 3rd wildcard spot. I don't think so.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
Asks Nick, how'd you like the response? Talked about it a little bit earlier. Respect Pionk for trying to drag Robertson into one.
Agreed.
Respect Lowry for taking that fight with Jamie Benn. Obviously, we saw the Dallas Stars really control that aspect of the game, and I thought that was very, very evident tonight.
Yep, 100% agree. They handled it well. I don't think there was anything else you could have really asked from the guys.
No.
For the fight.
Let's talk. Should we get into the Jared Bednar stuff?
Yes. Yes, please.
Should we pivot into the Jared Bednar stuff?
Oh, yes, please, because it ties greatly with Arniel's quote tonight as well, so I'm so excited.
Yeah, so Jared Bednar, Colorado's coach here, Stanley Cup winner. He's lasted a while in that organization.
Pretty good coach.
He's another guy I have a ton of credit for longevity with a competitive team with high expectations and keeping that room. He ended up sitting down with the PDO cast, Dmitry Filipovich and Thomas Jantz, shout out them, at the Halo Analytics Conference that just passed around the National Hockey League. Interesting enough, Washington's the only team that didn't send a rep to the conference. Not sure why.
Weird, right?
On that regard.
Yeah.
But I got to say, listening to smart hockey people really make us feel sane lately has been welcome.
Yep.
Between the elite prospect stuff and Jared Bednar, I truly would recommend anyone interested in getting in the mind of an NHL coach and GM, give it a listen, as Bednar and McFarland both make appearances. But there's one side that really, really stood out to me when we're having the conversations around the Winnipeg Jets, even dating back to last season. So he was asked at one point, how do you get the most out of this regular season when you know your goal is winning the Stanley Cup? It was prefaced with a couple things, but that was the guts of the question. And Bednar went on to say, winning and securing first is very important for us. It's a goal we set from the beginning of the year. We don't want to leave points on the table with too much experimentation. Kind of sounds like the narrative we were hearing last year around the Winnipeg Jets when they went bell to bell, right?
Yep.
Having said that, he follows up with, I relay it to the guys, like, listen, Mac, you're not playing with Marty tonight. Marty is going to play with Nelly. I know you can play with Marty. I know you want to play with Marty, but I'm going to move him down. We want familiarity so when we can be flexible come playoff time. We did it in 2022. We played Mac with a set of wingers at home and played him with a different set of wingers on the road because of the matchups. We did a lot in those playoffs, and it was very beneficial to us. I don't want them jumping on those lines for the first time. Plus, we have a lot of new players, so we're trying to find the chemistry. Sometimes a change doesn't maybe make sense in your head. You put someone there, and maybe they find chemistry. Or you add something to a line that you're not expecting, and it can work out. I'm playing with that now. Already we are doing it with our deep pairings a little bit earlier because we are comfortable how they line up. That's worked out well for us. That hasn't dropped our production. We're going to continue to do that through the course of the regular season, knowing that when games get tight, we can always go back. Basically, what I did twice versus Winnipeg, flip them and then flip them back, trying to figure out where we can go. There's a little bit of give and take on that to be as prepared as we possibly can be to start the playoffs. You hear that, and how do you possibly relate that to the conversations that we've had around the Winnipeg Jets from a coach that's managing talents like Nathan McKinnon, Marty Nikash, previously Mikko Rantanen, and how they handle juggling the lineup to try and find different avenues to be more successful come playoff time? Because I heard last year we should never expect that because they're rolling. What'd you think listening to Jared Bednar there?
You know, sometimes I start to think I'm crazy, you know, that I'm just kind of screaming into the void because I'm seeing a thing with my eyes and I'm able to, you know, say that out loud, but then people are like, no, that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. And it's great when an NHL coach comes out and replace the words entirely just with the names, right? Having said that, I relate to the guys. Like, hey, listen, Mark, you're not playing with Kyle tonight. Kyle's going to go play with Adam. I know you like to play with Kyle. I know you want to play with Kyle, but I'm going to move him down. We want, right? Like, how easy would that be, right? We can get one of those AI voice changers and just make it Scott Arneal's voice and play a voicemail for Mark Scheifele. Like, it's one of those things where the Winnipeg Jets are so rigid in all of their thinking, right? We make a lot of jokes about the Scheifele and Connor stuff, but it's so much bigger than just the two of them. The fact that they are so rigid, the entire organization is so rigid in its thinking, in its quote unquote roles that it has to have for everybody, that they get shoehorned into this and it leads them down into where you are right now, right? That inability to be able to bounce back, to adjust. Bednar is one of the most accomplished NHL coaches of this generation. There is no way you can go, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's crazy. That doesn't work here. If it works there, they're drafting higher than or lower, however you want to look at it. They're getting worse draft picks than the Jets every fucking year. They're always in the playoffs. They're always getting farther into the playoffs. They're trading first round picks. It's not like they've got some extra stash of picks that the Jets don't have. They're in a worse draft position every year, and yet they've got sustained success because they're able to be creative. They're able to be flexible. They are able to change things up. The Jets just don't do that. The Jets have roles, and if you don't play in those roles, and you can't be a part of the team, and if your identity isn't your identity, then you're not going to be like, it's the difference is so stark, not only with the Jets on the ice tonight with the Dallas Stars, but the entire Jets approach with something like this with Bednar and the Colorado Avalanche, an actually successful organization which has won multiple Stanley Cups in its history, that knows how to do that, right? We're going to reinvent the wheel here in Winnipeg with a bunch of nobodies who have never done anything, and yet we're going to look at, you know, a group and a city and a team like Colorado who've actually done it multiple times recently with one of the best coaches of this generation and go, nah, that could never work here. It's I was literally pulling my eyes out listening to Bednar because I wanted to cry. I felt so validated that I wasn't insane.
It is quite evident, like listening to the whole thing and how he incorporates analytics into his coaching, what he looks to, why he values expected goals, how they're trying to find different waves of offense, how they're trying to find different ways to create throughout their lineup, how they try and do it within their structure. It was music to like the hockey nerd in me's ears.
Yep.
But it was also just incredibly frustrating listening to it as people that bring up these type of things, listening to one of the most successful people saying the things that we've been talking about should be happening. And there is just none of it that happens within this org. Some of the comments in the chat, Jesse Klassen, Jesus, this is depressing to listen to when thinking about what we hear in Winnipeg versus what Bednar is saying out there. Nicholas at Night says, hearing, this is just another nail in the already thoroughly shut coffin. This team is cooked. Rob Mahoney points out at the end of the day, Scheifele and KFC have a business relationship or whatever coach said. Small McFlurry says it's almost like star players should be able to play with anyone. Turf Ferguson says, thought you don't mess with chemistry. That's what we were told. Pomerlane says, every time we get perspectives of voices outside of Jets, it just proves further how Bush League this is right now.
Yep.
Al Camino says Jets are playing checkers. T. Will says, none of the other players on the team have earned the right to play with Schaefer Connor, which is super important when you're missing the playoffs. Rihanna says, whoa, we can split up 55 and 81. Isn't there a law against that?
It's Choices TK on Twitch. Interesting that successful organizations basically do everything opposite of the way that the Jets operate. And it seems to be that way lately. Like, let me read Arneil's actual quote from tonight, because I've just kind of referenced it a couple times. He literally said, guys have roles to play, and you have to play it. And if you don't play your role, it makes it difficult. And if you don't have 20 guys playing to their identity, it makes it very difficult. And tonight, we were missing 9 to 10 guys. Again, it's just this idea that you can only play your role. You only have a role, and that is it. You're cast in that space. Nobody can move beyond those spots. It's the rigidity. It's not just Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele having to play together. It's not just that Neil Pionk has to play with Dylan Sandberg because nothing else fucking works. It's not just that they think Connor Hellebuck has to play, 70, 80 games a fucking year. It's not just any of those one things. It's the fact that all of those things are set into stone. We have no way to move off of them. And then we expect better and different results with a group that gets older every single year. If you wanted this quote unquote role thing to work, and this exact group to work, then you needed to capitalize on it a year ago when you brought in Luke Shen, for fuck's sakes, and completely tanked your hope of doing so. That for me is what it comes down to at the end of all of it. It's not any one of those things. It's all of them together just show a pattern of being so rigid and so unwilling to see that is the problem.
I got one more quote because I just had to, because it relates to a lot of the stuff we're talking about. He was asked, having room to fail, what role does that have? What role does that space do? Jared Bednar, I think it's essential that you have a short-term goals for your team, long-term goals for your team, and everyone, ownership, coaching staff, management, players are all on the same page. You rarely get it right the first time. We don't even get to look at anything past the first time. But Jared Bednar is saying you rarely get it right the first time. So we are still experimenting to this day, and we've learned a lot. You can play coverage, how you can play against a certain coverage. You have to be constantly adapting your game plan within the structure of your game and tactical plan, and knowing what makes your team good. Just incredible to hear those type of things coming when we're watching a program that may finish in the bottom 6 of the NHL, stick to plan one, show that they won't ever try anything else, and it's leading them into the abyss of the NHL. It's quite interesting to hear a successful organization's take on analytics, incorporating them, experimenting, giving space for failure and not overreacting to a bad period or bad stretch of games. It was just music to my ears, honestly. But I wanted to go one more place with the Bednar McFarland conversation versus Winnipeg.
Excellent.
My question for you is, are Nathan MacKinnon and Marty Nikash less unique and special than Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele?
Well, obviously, because they don't have that same bromance that Scheifele and Connor have, okay? I heard multiple times tonight how incredible it is that Mark Scheifele can find Kyle Connor anywhere on the ice. And so, that's got to mean something, right? Yeah, Scheifele's going to get 100 points this year, maybe. That's got to mean something. That's got to be more important than team success. That's got to be more important than a sustained playoff run. That's got to be more important than winning a Stanley Cup, right? The fact that they like each other so much, that is different. And, MacKinnon could never.
Matt Rothman says, worst part is this whole role shit has been going on for a long time. That's why 81, 55, 26 were constantly thrown on the main line. And Mike Friesen says the goal isn't a cup. The goal is following the rule. I'm going to point this out to you. Gretzky and Curry versus MacKinnon and Nikash, since Nikash was acquired by the Colorado Avalanche. MacKinnon and Nikash have played just over 1,252 minutes together. In those minutes, they've attempted their opposition 1,611 to 1,130. A 58.77% advantage for Colorado. Let's keep these percentages in mind, folks. In goals, in those minutes, they've outscored their opposition 95 to 41 for 69.85%. At expected goals, they've been expected to score 76 while allowing 55 for a 57.95 percentage advantage. Shall we compare to Gretzky and Curry?
I can't wait.
Dating back to last year, Gretzky and Curry have played 2,296 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
They have been outshot attempted 2,209 on their end of the ledger to 2,312. I should have flipped those, sorry. They've been outshot attempted 2,312 to 2,209 for a 48.86%. Not good compared to the 58.77. And over the last 2 years, they've outscored their opposition 125 to 105 for a 54.35%. And they've been expected to outscore their opposition 105 to 104 for a 50.32. If we're just looking at this year, where this year Gretzky and Curry have played 1,116 minutes, which is just over
Bananas.
or just under 100 minutes less than McKinnon and Nik dating back to the acquisition. They have outscored their 5-on-5 minutes together 65 to 63 for a +2. These are the conversations we're having where in Winnipeg, those numbers are unique and special, and they cannot be split up. And in Colorado, we're hearing Bednar saying, no, we need to look at this in case we got to adapt in the playoffs, despite outscoring their minutes by 55.
Yep. Yeah, it screams an organization that understands winning and an organization that has never done it and has hired nobody that has ever done it and has no idea how to do it. They just don't know. It's plain and simple. Like, they don't have the knowledge in their mind to go out and do it because they think they're doing it the right way when everything around them is telling you no.
Yeah. Choices DK says those 55-81 numbers just scream elite. Just can't possibly break that up. I just, we've been preaching this stuff for a while, and it was interesting to hear an organization that's won and is currently in the President's Trophy race ascending, talking about this stuff that we talked about last year at this time.
Hey, how's Nick Ehlers doing? Totally unrelated to this conversation, totally.
Yeah.
But how's he doing in Carolina? Bad, right? Because he's not any good?
Really good.
Oh, shit. Do you think we could use like a 70-point player on the wing or something like that?
Yeah, he's playing second line minutes, going to put up 70 points.
Mm-hmm. Shocking. Anyways.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting to bring the out-of-town perspective from organizations that get it. Should we dive into the out-of-town scoreboard and where we arrive at tonight as these games play out before we get into the 3 stars and a tank sim on this night?
All right, so games that we are watching that are still going on. You've got the Mammoth that have jumped up ahead of the Kraken now, 3-2. Sharks up 3-1 on the Maple Leafs.
Okay.
Predators up 2-0 on the Kings. And those are the only ones that are active right now. We got some big wins for us tonight with the Panthers beating the Bruins. And what was the other game tonight?
Devils beating the Caps.
Yes, and the Devils beat the Caps. So depending on how the Kraken Mammoth game finishes off, if the Kraken pick up the win, the Jets will find themselves in 6th place from the bottom.
And if Kraken pick up a point, they'll technically pass us. They'll be tied, but they'll have the one less game played.
Correct.
So as we sit here today, it's looking like the Winnipeg Jets will leave the wild card race down 3, projecting if those scores ended what they are right now.
Yep.
With the chance of waking up tomorrow in the 6th worst position, only 2 points up on St. Louis.
My hot take was that the St. Louis Blues passed the Winnipeg Jets by game 82 by the end of it, and I'm sticking with it. I think they're going to do it.
Flames in Vegas tied 3-3. Wouldn't mind a Flames win there.
Flames win would be nice. Yep.
So Kraken, we're needing to get a point. It would be nice if the Leafs came back and brought it to overtime and then lost in overtime.
Mm-hmm. But I'll take a Sharks
San
win.
Jose will take a jump. So you're looking at jumping, leaving tonight with 7 to go. You're looking at jumping at least 3 teams, potentially 4.
Yeah. Most
It
likely they'll have
is
to jump 4 teams.
effectively over.
It's over, guys. It's again, don't look at that point number. That is a fake number. That is the NHL's fake parody that they put in to make this look interesting until the end. The math is not on the Winnipeg Jets side. This is not a good team. They are going to finish in that lottery spot. I'm hoping that it's going to be in that 6th spot so we can repeat destiny like last time. But you don't have to worry about the playoffs. That is a foregone conclusion.
As it sits right now, 6% odds based on HockeyStats.com's model, and that's before getting these finishes in the books. You're basically looking at 7-0 or you're done. That's where we're at.
Yep.
You're gonna have to win 7 or go like 6-0-1 and get a lot of help. This
And
is
get a
where we
lot
are.
of help. Too much help that is actually, plausible.
Yeah. No, we're back, folks. The future is back in perspective.
It's a good thing we didn't
They
lock in
killed it.
8. Phew.
Talk about a roller coaster.
Right?
We're talking about locking in late. We're talking about locking in 6.
How do you
Then
feel
we're
about
talking
6
about
now?
playoff run.
How are we feeling about 6? Before we
I
do the
would not-
take-a-thon so that we don't know what the win's going to be, would you lock in 6?
So right now I would not lock in 6 because they could finish in 5 or 6 plausibly.
Yep.
And you'd still have the lottery balls
Mhm.
that can get you the elite talent at the top. So where we're sitting today and what today meant and what I think Columbus potentially does to them on Saturday.
Yep.
I'm not locking it in.
Excellent. The gambler in you is coming out. I like it.
Yeah, we're back to gambling.
Let's
on
roll
this
those
being
dice,
bad
baby.
enough.
I'm with you. I'm not locking in. Let's roll the dice. I think Grandpa Bones is going to save the Winnipeg Jets a second time on Saturday when he puts them absolutely to bed with that game.
What a story that would be in a roundabout way. Here's his quotes tonight leaving the Columbus game. Rick Bone is not holding back when talking to reporters in Raleigh. Said some guys better start to listen again. We've seen that one.
Mm-hmm.
He also said some guys are on their own program out there. Grandpa Bones is about to crack the whip before the Jets coming into town. Glenn Gulletson did the same to Dallas, and we saw what happened. If Bones gets the response that he's looking for, he is 100% going to put the dagger in this year's Winnipeg Jets.
Yep, I would be shocked if the Blue Jackets come out with another dud after this. Nobody wants to disappoint their grandpa. At the end of the day, you don't want to make Bones upset. You love him too much. Lowry talked about him in his post-game comments today. He's the type of coach that you love playing for, and you don't want to disappoint him. So yeah, I'm expecting Columbus to come out hot on Saturday.
That could be the one, folks. That could be the one. Let's get into the 3 stars, if there's any 3 stars.
Oh,
Can we go for 3 stars tonight? Or should we just skip that part?
let's skip it. I have one.
Who's your one?
I have one. I'm going to give a star to Dan Robertson. One, I just like his calls. I like his voice. I'm a bit of a homer. I had him in Montreal doing English radio play for a little while before coming to the Jets. But in the pregame little video hit that he did, he talked about how 20 minutes before the game time, he's sweating and stressing, and he's freaking out. He doesn't know what he's going to say on the broadcast, and he's all worried. And then, the game starts and he gets into it and everything ends up being okay. And that was pretty real, and I felt that, and I really liked that a lot. So in a game where all of the Jets were fucking terrible, I'm going to give a single star out to Dan Robertson. I just like that.
Speaking of things I liked, actually, that humanizes people, Gabe Velarde, again, continues to be the man. Morgan Barron did the Jets podcast there
Okay.
that they do internally.
Yeah.
And he was telling another story. So Stanley had talked about how Gabe Velarde brings the goggles on the road trip for swimming. And we've heard him talk about the anxiety. We've heard him talk about Lego, going to a rec room. Like, he's really humanizing himself.
Yeah.
And I love it. But Morgan Barron gives us a story how after guys sign a big ticket, normally you're on the hook for a big fancy dinner for
Yep.
the team. Gabe Velarde said, fuck that, and he bought the entire team Nintendo Switches
Yes.
so that he was not only playing, he was not playing alone on the airplanes and on the trips.
Oh my god. Okay, Gabe Velarde might be my new favorite player. Oh shit, I love it so much. That's great.
Yeah, I thought it was a great story.
That's so good. Big
A lot
respect.
of Dan hype, as Rob Mahoney says. I like that Dan was ready to leave with 4 seconds left. He knew.
That was funny. Yeah, I saw that too.
Jets Empire, Dan and Dennis are great. Small McFlurry, Dan is the GOAT. I enjoy listening to his calls.
Yeah, I was real happy
Let's
when
get
they
in.
got him.
Yeah, same. Let's get into the tank sim before we get out of here. Heading into the long weekend here.
All right, let's pull it up. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Look at that! Your Winnipeg Jets win the draft lottery #1 overall pick.
We're so back.
Look what
The
a
vibes
loss
are
does,
back.
y'all. It goes by points percentage that had the Jets in the 6th spot. We won the lottery from the 6th place, okay? That's where we want to be. That's where we won it last time. We're going to do it again this time. You ready to add Gavin McKenna to your Winnipeg Jets?
Oh, I'm so ready. We are so freaking back. That is exciting. I gotta say, I was getting a little nervous, and I might have been miserable the last couple days, but the vibes are back. Let's
Oh,
go.
Breathe a sigh of
The
relief.
future of this franchise is back in the frame, and we're gonna continue breaking it all down. Leslie, we'll go outside in a second here. I gotta get out of here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for a great show. We won the fake lottery. We're back in the bottom 6 mix. The Dallas Stars humble the Winnipeg Jets and bring a little sober reality to the market of Winnipeg. We'll see you Saturday after Grandpa Bones potentially ends the Winnipeg Jets season and maybe the score. Who knows? We'll see you then.
Right on. Good night, everybody.